If you could buy a house now and save thousands of dollars versus waiting until next spring, would you do it? Well, stick around and find out more about why that might be the case. Hey RRT family, Ryan Reynolds here with Keller Williams Consultants Realty and your September 2024 real estate market update. So what's going on here in September of 2024? Well, we've got a lot of stuff going on. We're just past Labor Day, and obviously it's an election year. The Buckeyes are back on the field, and believe it or not, I saw my first Christmas tree today, and I think the day is the 5th or 6th of September. It's Thursday, and it's way too stinking early. Now, the temperatures are also coming down, which I am thankful for, because the 97-degree thing was just getting to be a tiny bit old, and while I don't look forward to the snow or anything like that, temperatures in the 80s and 70s, I think I'll take it. So anyway, that's kind of the things that are going on here in Greater Columbus. But now let's go ahead and get into the three things we always talk about, which are going to be the inventory levels of existing single-family homes, will be the mortgage interest rates we have currently in our market, and also what everybody wants to know about is how much is my house worth now compared to last year? What is the appreciation rate of the average house in the Greater Columbus area? So let's go ahead and get into that now. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is inventory. Now, inventory is the number of homes that are on the market that are available for purchase at any given time. And today that number was 3,419 houses. And that is up 600 houses compared to last year, almost 22%. So that is a huge increase. So why are we seeing the increase? Well, the biggest reason is last year we were in an environment where the mortgage interest rates were going up at a very steep rate. And a lot of people just who were thinking about selling decided, I'm not doing this. I don't want to trade my 3 or 4% interest rate for an 8% rate. And so I'm just going to stick where I am. So fast forward a year, interest rates have come down, and we'll get into that next. And people feeling a little bit more comfortable about where they are, and actually even more comfortable about where the interest rates might be headed. So they feel comfortable to put their house in the market and then get it sold and maybe move up. So in any case, that's what's going on with inventory. We're up 22.8% and about 600 houses over last year. Now, the second thing we're going to talk about are mortgage interest rates. As I alluded to a second ago, mortgage interest rates are looking a lot better than they were a year ago. A year ago, we were on a foot race up to 8.1% is where it peaked out in October. And today, interest rates were 6.34%. On a 30-year fixed mortgage, and that's if you have good credit and all of those disclaimers. Now, what does that mean? Well, interest rates, just so you know, since last October where they peaked, came down pretty immediately in January, and then in the springtime they actually came back up. So they came down in January to around 7, came back up to 7.25, 7.5, something like that for a lot of the spring, and then they've started to drop really since probably mid-June, and right now they're at 6.34. Now tomorrow, which would be yesterday if you're watching this on Saturday, the jobs number comes out from the Department of Labor. That number will greatly, or has the potential to greatly influence what happens to interest rates. The common thinking is that mortgage interest rates, which are not directly tied to the Federal Reserve overnight funding rates, but are indirectly tied, the thinking is that if jobs number comes in worse than they're expecting, that the Federal Reserve will maybe do a half-point cut instead of a quarter-point cut, or at least will be more sure of having a cut, and therefore mortgage interest rates will come back down even farther. Now, if the jobs report that comes out is better than expected, that'll actually negatively affect inflation, which will then likely make interest rates higher. So, and then it's a little bit complicated, actually not a little bit, it's a ton complicated, but that's kind of how I understand it. The general gist is that mortgage interest rates are coming down, and that's a good thing. So that's what's going on with mortgage rates. The last thing we're going to talk about before I get into my short commentary is the home price appreciation numbers for year over year. And so what is the average home selling for in Greater Columbus area, according to the MLS, this year compared to what it was selling for last year? Well, right now, the average sale price in the MLS is $379,000, up from $362,000, which, if you can do really quick math, is a 4.7% increase year over year. What does that mean? It means your house is probably worth about 4.7% more if it's an average house in the average area of Columbus. Each individual area will greatly vary, and so that number is just a general number, but in thinking about that, you're probably up about 4.5% to 5% over last year. And that's good because inflation's up, things more expensive, and that's your nest egg appreciating. So that's where we are with home values. And now I want to talk just a little bit about what that all means and how we can kind of interpret that data. So if you're thinking about buying a house in the next year, let's say, and you could buy it this fall versus buying next spring, what's it probably going to be like from an environment standpoint? Right now we have a decent amount of inventory. Now it's still pretty low compared to what we have maybe seen historically, but it's up compared to the last couple of years. So that's good. You means you'll have a little bit more to choose from. Mortgage interest rates are not at the highest, but they're still kind of high, but they're coming down. And so the famous saying, date the rate and marry the house, while everybody kind of hates that saying now for some reason, that is kind of true. Like when you buy the house, you get to lock in the price, lock in your cost for your housing, and then if the rates come down over time, you can always refinance. But 6.3, historically speaking, is actually right about average, maybe even getting to be a touch below average. So that actually is a good thing. So that's what's going on right now. A couple of good things: higher inventory, lower interest rates, and prices are up a little bit, but they're not up as much as they were from the previous year to last year. So let's fast forward to next spring. What's probably going to happen next spring? Well, if everything continues as we believe it will, interest rates will continue to come down. So that refinance opportunity might even be as early as 6 months from now. But let's just say they drop another 0.5% to 1% between now and the springtime. That puts them right around 5.5%. That 5.5% compared to 6.5% actually helps a lot of people be able to buy the house. A 1% decrease in interest rate has a huge effect on your monthly payment. I won't go into the math, but trust me on it, it's a big effect. If you wait till next spring and the rates come down and more people can afford it, and there's a lot more people normally from a seasonal standpoint getting into the market in the spring, you'll have a ton more people. So what does that mean? A ton more people competing for probably some more houses than they have in the market normally means you're probably going to be maybe missing out on a house or two, so your heartbreak factor is probably going to be higher. Your payment will probably be a little bit lower according to the rate, but you're going to pay more for the house because all of that competition will likely push prices up. And I think the other thing is that it'll be a lot more of a hectic time because there would be so many more people moving, and as a buyer, you're probably not going to have as much flexibility in some of the other terms besides the purchase price. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I think if you buy a house between now and the end of the year, it's actually gonna be a lot more pleasant experience because there'll be more to choose from. Your interest rate will be reasonable, but you can always refinance that later, and you'll lock in a price that's probably gonna be lower than it was, or will be, I should say, next spring. So that's what's going on in the greater Columbus real estate market. If you have questions about your specific situation, feel free to reach out and we can customize a plan for you. I'm Ryan Reynolds, as always, with the Ryan Reynolds team, unlimited opportunities and exceptional experiences.